Good evening. It's Tuesday, September 29th. I'm coming to you live from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Yakima, Washington, the brand new Lonely Tree Media Studios in Yakima, Washington. This is the Best Lamm Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamm. Going it alone tonight. I'm solo, so you get to hear just my wonderful voice. And, if you don't like it, well, that's just tough. Parker will be back this coming weekend, and we'll have both of us and maybe AJ. We'll see if we can get everybody on board. Got a lot to talk about today. There was a lot of things going on. We got the NBA Finals. We got MLB playoffs. The NFL happened over the weekend. College football. Of course, F1. We're going to have our trivia question. But let's start by talking about The Range. Our friends at The Range sponsor the first half of the show. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting facility at 34,000 square feet. The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training, retail firearm sales and supplies, full gunsmithing and repairs, custom builds, and Cerakote services all under one roof. Open Tuesday through Sunday from 11 to 7. Go see our friends at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima. The phone number is 509-571-1449. The Range, educate, equip, and empower. So, like I said, we had a lot of things to talk about. We're going to talk about our F1 minute while we're talking about The Range. Formula One was at the Russian Grand Prix over the weekend. Valtteri Bottas is your winner from Team Mercedes. Max Verstappen from Team Red Bull finished second, and Lewis Hamilton also from Team Mercedes finished third. Thanks to two 5-second penalties. He was docked a little bit of time for a pre-race start. A practice start where he shouldn't have been or shouldn't have done it. But anyway, it cost him a little bit of time. But an exciting race in the Russian Grand Prix in Sochi, if you watched it over the weekend. I don't think there's a race this weekend. It doesn't look like there is any race this weekend. They were off last weekend as well. So the next race is October 9th through the 11th at the Hockenheimring, the Mercedes-Benz German Grand Prix. So again, October 9th through the 11th is the whole weekend. October 11th is the actual race. If you watch it, it's early in the morning. Qualifying will be practice will be on Friday, qualifying Saturday morning, and then the actual race on Sunday morning. It is fun to watch. If you haven't watched it, watch the F1 races. It is fun to watch. It's short. It's better than NASCAR. There's only 20 cars. It can be a little bit boring at times, but then again, so is every race that you watch. So, but it is. I trust that you'll have fun if you watch it. Let's move along. NBA Finals. So we have a matchup for the NBA Finals, and that is the Lakers and the Heat. And first game is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. The Lakers are the designated home team, which means all that court at Disney will be, purple and gold Laker colors. The Heat, by the way, are the very first 5 seed to ever make the NBA Finals. And they've been having NBA Finals since 1947. And the Heat are the first 5 seed to ever make it to the finals. Just make it to the finals. Not even have a chance to not even win or lose, just to make it there. The Lakers are 16-15 overall in finals appearances. They are 12-9 as the number 1 seed, the number 1 West seed in the finals. The Heat are 3-2 in the finals, but 2-2 with LeBron James. So they've only been to one other finals that they won without LeBron James. So LeBron James is a big key factor in both these teams' success. Seeds 4 through 8, just for reference, seeds 4 through 8 have been in the finals 8 times. They're 2 and 6. So there's been 8 times when a seed 4, 6, 7, or 8 has made it to the finals. But number 5, never. It's never happened. This is the first time ever. So the Heat are in uncharted territory, and I think before the playoffs started, I would have told you I didn't think the Heat were going to get there. I did not think that this team was good enough to beat maybe even the Pacers, who was their first round opponent, and they did that pretty easily. And then I didn't think they were going to be good enough to beat, for sure, to beat Boston or Toronto or whoever. So they just kept winning games, and I got to hand it to them. I'm not sure how they're going to fare against LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the whole cast of characters. I think the Lakers just have too much talent. They're too long. They're too athletic. They're going to be hard to beat and defend Too many guys that can beat you. Jimmy Butler's going to have to do too much, and I think that the other team knows that. I think the Lakers know that. They're going to try and shut him down. Bam Adebayo also could be a factor in this game, but I think that Anthony Davis has played against much better opponents, so I'm not sure that he's going to be much of a thing going on in the finals. But it's going to be interesting to watch. We'll see what happens, because I've counted out the Heat in all 3 series, I think, prior to this, and you see what happens. Here they are in the finals. So we won't know until we see what happens. Again, Game 1 tomorrow night, 6 p.m. It's on ABC. Tune in to find out. Game 2 is on Friday, also on ABC at 6 p.m. And then the series switches, quote unquote, to Miami. So that being said, and we're talking about finals right now, it's going to bring us to our trivia question for the day. And trivia question, as always, is brought to you by Stave and Stone Winery in Hood River. The Vineyard Tasting Room, 3827 Fletcher Drive, and the Downtown Tasting Room, 210 Oak Street. They're both open. Go to staveandstone.com. Check out their gift baskets, perfect for the wine lover in your family. For more information, call 541-946-3750. That's 541-WINE-750. Or email them at info@staveandstone.com. Stave and Stone, wines with personality. The trivia question for today is going to be about the NBA Finals, because we're here and we're in the finals. So, did a little research. There are 6 current NBA franchises that have never been in the finals. I want to know who they are. All 6. I'll give you partial credit if you get 5. But all 6 current NBA franchises that have never been in the NBA Finals. That's what I want to know. That's the trivia question for today. Moving along, we got the Timbers. Has anybody been watching the Portland Timbers? Because the Timbers have been good recently. Timbers are in second place in the Western Conference. They have 24 points, 7 wins, 4 losses, and 3 draws. The Sounders have the exact same. They're 24 points as well, 7 wins, 3 losses, and 3 draws. And Portland's just been on fire. They went through a little down period after they won the MLS is Back tournament, after they beat Orlando in Orlando. They got beat 3-0 by Seattle. They tied Real Salt Lake 4-4. They lost to the LA Galaxy 3-2. Since then, a 2-1 win over Seattle. They lost 4-2 to LAFC, a 1-1 tie with San Jose, and then a 6-1 crushing of San Jose. A 1-0 win over Seattle, and most recently a 1-0 win over Vancouver. The Timbers play on Saturday against the Colorado Rapids. So it's going to be interesting to watch the Timbers go along. Like right now, they're in second place, and they are a very solid soccer team. They are capable of winning the Western Conference, most definitely. But I love the fact that it's Seattle and Portland. They're going to be battling it out, and they've still got games to play as the season goes along. It's going to be interesting to watch, I think. Shortened season, but I think the fact that you have that rivalry, that whole Cascadia Cup rivalry, Vancouver, Portland, and Seattle, I think going on is fantastic for soccer. Portland and Seattle are probably the 2 biggest rivals in soccer right now, dating back to the North American Soccer League in the 70s. And it is fantastic soccer to watch. If you get a chance to watch one of those games on TV, please do. I am not as big a fan of MLS soccer as I am of European soccer, either the Premier League or Bundesliga in Germany. They're both better soccer. There's better quality soccer out there. But it is fun to watch when 2 teams do not like each other. No matter what sport it is. It really doesn't matter. There's tempers flaring, and we like that. So MLS, watch it. The Timbers are doing well. Tied, I guess, technically for first place, but they have 1 more loss than the Seattle Sounders, so they're technically in second place percentage-wise. MLB playoffs have just started. If you're not watching them, you should be watching them. There's a game on right now. So the Yankees are crushing the Cleveland Indians right now, and it is 12-2. That's right, someone just hit a home run. It is 12-2 Yankees in Game 1 of the wild card series between those 2 teams. The Indians are technically the home team. They have the better record. They're the 4 seed. The Yankees are the 5 seed. But it is all Yankees in Game 1. Earlier today in the American League, the Astros beat the Twins 4-1. The White Sox over the Athletics 4-1. And the Rays, who are the number 1 seed in this whole thing, Tampa Bay Rays beat the Blue Jays 3-1 to take game 1 of their series. It is not as exciting as it should be. I'm just going to say that right now. I take a little bit of a exception to the fact that we have the National League playoffs, which are starting soon, and you've got a team like St. Louis who made it into the National League playoffs despite playing 2 less games than everyone else. I don't know that that's fair, and I'm all about fair. If you guys have listened to this show before, you know that I'm all about fair, and I think that the Cardinals having 2 less chances to lose a game, I'm saying even if they had lost both those games, they would still be in the playoffs. That's probably the 8 seed, but right now they're the 5, I think, and that's, if you if you don't play as many games as the other teams, you don't have as many chances to lose. So yes, you don't have as many chances to win, but the fact that you aren't losing those games not playing, it affects everything. I just don't think it's fair for one team to play less than the other. That's the reason why everyone plays the same amount of games. There's, otherwise you'd be able to set your own schedule, and it's that way in every league. So I don't know why the MLB thinks they're special, but the National League matchups, if you haven't seen them, Dodgers, Brewers, looking forward to that one. I think that's going to be a lot of interesting baseball. The Dodgers are the number 1 seed, the Brewers are 8. The Padres are the 4 seed, Cardinals are the 5 seed. That's also going to be a good series. Cubs are the 3 seed, and the Florida Marlins are back in the postseason. They are the 6 seed. Atlanta Braves are the 2 seed after winning the National League East, and the Cincinnati Reds are the 7 seed. So 16 teams in this MLB postseason, and that also is interesting. That's a first. It's almost too diluted, and what I see is a lot of 500 baseball teams. So you're looking at the Astros, who are in the playoffs, 29-31. Okay. The Blue Jays, 32-28. Okay. The National League has the Reds, 31-29, and the Marlins, 31-29, and the Cardinals are at 30-28. And the Brewers are 29-31, a losing record, and they're in the playoffs. And I do not agree with anybody who has a losing record ever making the playoffs. It's just not okay. If you can't even win half your games, but you can get into the playoffs, and now they have a chance to win the World Series, basically, if they just play well from here on out, I don't think that should be rewarded. So the expansion of the postseason to 16 teams, I'm not in favor of it. Having losing teams with losing records in the playoffs, not in favor of it. Having teams play a non-equal amount of games, I'm not in favor of it. That's how baseball lost me. Once COVID struck and there were postponed games, it turned awful. And there was no way for the Cardinals, after they had postponed, I don't know, a dozen, 15 games, to make them all up in time. There just was no way it's going to happen. And therein lies the problem. Watching the Yankees right now, watching live baseball, it's the top of the 9th. Yankees 12-2 over Cleveland with 2 out in the top of the 9th. And they got a man on first and second. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated if anything exciting happens. If Cleveland mounts a 10-run rally in the bottom of the 9th to come back to win, we will be here to cover it. Don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. So let's move along. So over the weekend, there was a lot of NFL football, right? We're back to NFL football. Everybody loves it. And just a recap, Thursday night, Dolphins over the Jaguars, 31-13. Gardner Minshew threw for 275 yards and an interception. He was the leading passer in the game. Myles Gaskin had 22 carries and 66 yards for Miami. He was the leading rusher in the game. It wasn't great. Fitzpatrick was 18 of 20 for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. A quarterback rating of 97.2, a QBR of 97.2, but a rating of 133. He looked great, but it's 160 yards. It wasn't exactly a monster day, but it was enough. And the Dolphins defense played well enough to win. And in the end, it was not great football, but it was fun. I'm a Dolphins fan, so it was fun to watch the Dolphins beat the Jaguars. They got their first win of the season. Both teams are now 1-2 on the season. I don't know. I'm not feeling good about the Dolphins. We'll see what happens. They're not a great football team, but neither are the Jaguars. On Sunday, the Bears won their 3rd straight. They are 3-0. They beat the Falcons 30-26 after another Atlanta Falcons collapse. Nick Foles comes in relief of Mitchell Trubisky, and pulls off the upset win. 20 points in the fourth quarter for the Bears after being down 26-10. 26-10. The Falcons have found new and interesting ways to lose every game this year, and I don't understand. Todd Gurley for Atlanta had 80 yards and a touchdown on 14 carries. Matt Ryan was the leading passer in the game, 19 of 38, 230 yards and a touchdown. But it wasn't enough, and the Bears find a way to win on the road in Atlanta. The Bills, almost blew that game against the Rams. 35-32, the Bills win at home. But they had a 25-point lead. They were up 28-3 and then gave up 29 straight points to be behind 32-28 in the fourth quarter. And it took a late touchdown from Josh Allen, a 3-yard touchdown pass to Tyler Kroft with 15 seconds remaining to give them the win. Jared Goff for the Rams, 321 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darrell Henderson for the Rams, 20 carries, 114 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp for the Rams, 9 receptions, 107 yards and a touchdown. And if you watched it, you would have thought the Rams were going to win that game. But, hey, in the end, it came down to Josh Allen, and the man threw 4 touchdown passes, 311 yards, and led his team to victory. He at times looked suspect, questionable. He made some bad decisions. He got himself a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which you don't see out of a quarterback very often. But in the end, he won a football game, and the Bills are undefeated. So handing the Rams their first loss. Rams 2-1, Bills are 3-2. That was probably the best game to watch of the games of all of them over the weekend. The Browns got their second win. They're 2-1. They beat the Washington football team, which we still haven't come up with a name for. 34-20, 17 fourth quarter points after trailing 20-17. Baker Mayfield, 2 touchdown passes. Nick Chubb ran for two scores. 108 yards and 2 touchdowns for Nick Chubb. And the Browns win 34-20. Titans over the Vikings on the road, 31-30. What's wrong with the Vikings? The Vikings are 0-3. Ryan Tannehill of Tennessee threw for 321 yards and an interception. He didn't throw a touchdown pass, but was instrumental in making drives happen that led to scores. Dalvin Cook for the Vikings, 22 carries, 181 yards and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson of Minnesota had 7 catches for 175 yards and a touchdown. The Titans are 3-0. It's a sketchy 3-0 to me. It feels funny. But Ryan Tannehill and company, Derrick Henry, 26 carries, 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's what Derrick Henry does. That's what he did all last year. And he looks good. Kirk Cousins had 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions for the Vikings. It just, I don't know. There's something wrong with Minnesota, but they're 0-3, and I don't think it gets any better if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. The schedule's not easy playing in the North with Green Bay and Detroit, those teams up there. Anyway, so the Patriots over the Raiders, 36-20, and that was a game that was pretty well dominated by the Patriots. I didn't feel at any point in time really that the Raiders were going to win that game. Rex Burkhead had 3 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns in the game through, and 36-20 it was pretty much a dominating performance, I think. Bill Belichick joined George Halas and Don Shula as the only coaches in NFL history to reach 275 regular season victories. It was a good win for the Patriots. I think you're going to see the Patriots get stronger and better, and I think that Cam Newton is playing pretty well. 17 of 28, 162 yards, touchdown, interception. It wasn't great, but it was good enough. And then, of course, like I said, Rex Burkhead had two touchdowns rushing and 1 receiving. And Sony Michel ran for 117 yards. Josh Jacobs, the Vegas running back, who's been tearing everybody up, 71 yards on 16 carries. Derek Carr was 24 of 32, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked better than Cam Newton, but they just didn't have it. Turnovers, of course, are going to do it. And 3 fumbles, 3 Las Vegas fumbles killed them in this game. So Other action in the NFL, if I can get there. Hold on just a second, because things are not working. We got a technical difficulty. It's not going to be the last one. Just letting you know. The Niners, 36-9 over the Giants. It was their second win over a New York team. They beat the Jets last week, Giants this week. Those two teams are combined 0-6. So if you're a Niners fan, the fact that you're missing Jimmy Garoppolo, it isn't really affected you right now because you're playing the worst teams in the league. Nick Mullins of San Francisco was 25 of 36, 343 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk of San Francisco, the rookie out of Arizona State, 5 catches for 70 yards. And it was a dominating win for the Niners from start to finish. And the Giants are not good. And without Saquon Barkley, their best player, they're not good. The Bengals and the Eagles tied 23-23. Joe Burrow had his first non-loss of his NFL career. 31 of 44, 312 yards and 2 touchdowns for Joe Burrow in that one. The Eagles also one of those teams, winless teams that are just don't look right. Something's missing. Don't know what it is, but they just don't look right. The Steelers kept the Texans winless with a 28-21 win. James Conner ran for 109 yards and the go-ahead touchdown midway through the fourth quarter. Deshaun Watson, 19 of 27, 264, 2 touchdowns. James Conner of Pittsburgh, 18 carries, 109 yards and a touchdown. I don't know. The Texans are 0-3 and they've lost to 3 really good teams. So they're probably, I would tell you, the best 0-3 team that's out there, if there's such a thing. But it just hasn't been, nothing's gone their way so far this year. The Colts crushed the Jets. Again, the Jets are 0-3. The Jets are probably the worst team in football. I would put my money on the Jets. Although if you're going to play the Jets and the Giants, who knows? But a 36-7 win for the Colts. Phillip Rivers, 217 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor of Indianapolis, 59 yards on the ground and a touchdown. But it was pretty much the Colts defense that came through in that one. And like I said, it wasn't even really close. Let's be honest. 3 interceptions for the Colts, and I'm sorry, but Sam Darnold, 17 of 29, 168 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 47. Can we talk about the fact that he shouldn't be there? I know he's playing on a bad team, and he doesn't have any tools around him. Well, and someone needs to go get him if you think he's worth it. Someone needs to go get him so that he can get somewhere. And by the way, just a little update. Cleveland has scored a run in the bottom of the ninth. It's now 12-3. 12-3 Yankees with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, but they got a man on first. So there's still a chance. There's always hope. So the Panthers get a win at the Chargers, 21-16. Justin Herbert, former Duck, was 35 of 49, 330 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen had 13 of those catches for 132 yards and a score, but the Carolina defense forced 3 LA turnovers, a fumble, and an interception by Herbert, and just enough to win. The Chargers had a chance at the end of the game. If you watch that game, on the last play, Herbert throws the ball downfield, connects with Keenan Allen, who was supposed to throw a hook and lateral it back, and the man was open. If the lateral is any kind of good, hits that man in the hands, hits him anywhere on his body, that's a touchdown. He was going to score. They had the defense fooled, but it went over his head, and that was that. So the Chargers lost it in a tough way. For Herbert, that's his second loss in 2 starts. They're 1-2. The Panthers, it was their first win of the season, and they are 1-2 as well. Buccaneers over the Broncos, 28-10. Tom Brady looked a lot better. 3 touchdown passes. The Broncos, can we say it? They're not very good either. So throw the Broncos, the Jets, and the Giants all in that same mix as to who's the worst team in football. And Parker was here, he'd be groaning right now because he's a Broncos fan. They're just not good. Lions beat the Cardinals in kind of an upset, 26-23 at Arizona, despite Kyler Murray throwing for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. Adrian Peterson also ran for 75 yards for the Lions. DeAndre Hopkins had 137 yards receiving on 10 catches for Arizona, but he didn't get in the end zone. So Matt Prater makes the 39-yard field goal as time expires to give the Lions a 26-23 win. The Seahawks over the Cowboys, 38-31. That one was also an interesting game, fun to watch. Russell Wilson throws for 5 more touchdowns, and DK Metcalf made up for a first half blunder where he just flat out stopped running towards the end zone, gave up and said, "Hey, I'm going to score." Got the ball poked out from him before he crossed the goal line. And I don't know. That game was, if you're a Seahawks fan, there was a lot of bad. There was a lot of things in there, but in the end, they won. They did what they needed to do to get a W at the end of the day. But it was 30-15 Seahawks at one point, and then Dallas took the lead 31-30. So yeah, it was interesting, but quite a game. Russell Wilson, 5th quarterback to throw 5 touchdown passes in consecutive games. Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Dante Culpepper, Tom Flores are the previous 4. So quite a feat to throw 5 touchdown passes in 2 games. He also set a franchise record for most touchdowns in the first 3 games of a season. He's got 14. Man's got 14 touchdown passes in 3 games. So let's just extrapolate that out a bit. If he throws 5 times that many, that would be 15 games. He'd have 70 touchdown passes. Woo! So Russell Wilson is on fire, and we'll see if it keeps up. But their offense has looked really, really good, almost unstoppable in 3 straight games, and we'll see. They may be the best team in the NFC. I guess we'll find out more as we go along through the season. But a good win for Seattle over the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are now 1-2. Seahawks 3-0. The Sunday night game, if you watch it, the Packers 37-30 over the Saints. The Saints just don't look right either. Drew Brees threw for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns, but I don't know. Aaron Rodgers looked way better. It's a lot of points, more points than I'm used to from a Packers-Saints kind of game, which you would think would have some defense in it. There was none. But Aaron Rodgers was the better quarterback in this one. Drew Brees was good. It just was it. Green Bay looked that much better to me in watching it. They passed the eye test. And then, of course, the Monday night game, the Chiefs all over the Ravens, 34-20. It was 27-10 at the half. Patrick Mahomes threw for 385 yards and 4 scores. Lamar Jackson ends up being the leading rusher with 83 yards rushing in this one on 9 carries for Baltimore, but he was 15 of 28 for 97 yards passing and 1 touchdown. And that's not going to get it done. 3 fumbles. They only lost 1, Baltimore, but they fumbled the ball 3 times. They didn't look right either. But this is a good football team that's going to be there in the end. They're 2-1. The Chiefs moved to 3-0 and are probably the best team in football, complete team in football. Let's call it that. So that was the wrap up from Sunday. It was interesting. It was a lot of good football. Some bad. I think just my takeaway right now from watching what we've seen, your current standings in the NFL, the Bills 3-0 and lead the AFC East. The Steelers are 3-0, lead the North. The Titans are 3-0, they lead the AFC South, and the Chiefs are 3-0, they lead the West. Of those 4 teams in the AFC, Kansas City looks like the best team by far, but I would not count out those Buffalo Bills. But I think if you were going to ask me, it would be Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, Titans in that order. In the NFC, the NFC East is a mess. Washington football team leads the NFC East with a 1-2 record. The Cowboys are 1-2. The Eagles are 0-2-1, and the Giants are 0-3. The division is a combined 2-9-1 after 3 weeks, and I wouldn't have even fathomed that to begin with. Every team in the division is being outscored. They just don't look right. The whole NFC just looks like they're not ready. By contrast, the NFC North, the Packers and the Bears are both 3-0. The Lions are 1-2. The Vikings are 0-3. That's that team that looks bad. But the Bears, a 2-0 team, gets to trailing in a game 3 of the season, and they switch and go to a backup quarterback. It's not something I've seen where they bench the starting quarterback in game 3 when they're 2-0. That seems kind of weird. Seems like a quick trigger, but maybe they just, Nick Foles is like the ultimate relief pitcher. He comes in and manages to win no matter where he is. But will they stay with him? Will they go back to Mitchell Trubisky? That's a whole nother question. Packers and Bears are going to play a couple times as we go through the season, so that'll be interesting. The NFC South, which I would have told you was the power conference, the power division, sorry, in football, is not. The Buccaneers are 2-1, and the Saints are 1-2. The Panthers 1-2. The Falcons are 0-3, and they found three terrible ways. They've just folded, choked. You call it what you want, but the Falcons have done it 3 times this year at the end of the game. Found a way to take a lead and then just lose it. Seahawks, and the NFC West now, by the way, where the Seahawks are, is probably the premier division. Seahawks 3-0, Cardinals 2-1, Rams 2-1, Niners 2-1, and the Niners are 2-1 despite missing some players to injury. Every team in that division has outscored their opponents by at least 16 points for the season. So that is probably the toughest division in football right now. A lot to be said. There's more. There's more coming this coming weekend. Key matchups for Week 4 in the NFL, if you're interested, let's see. So Pittsburgh and Tennessee, 2 unbeaten teams. That's going to be a good game. You're going to have New England and Kansas City playing at Arrowhead, Kansas City. Atlanta gets another chance to lay an egg at Green Bay. Arizona, Carolina could be an interesting showdown between Teddy Bridgewater and Kyler Murray. Cleveland and Dallas. Cleveland's 2-1. Dallas is 1-2. But I'm going to take Dallas. I think that could be an interesting game to watch if you're watching. That one's on Fox at 10 in the morning. If you're on the West Coast, of course, if you're listening on the East, that's 1 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be an interesting Week 4. We're going to have a lot of interesting. So one more thing we need to talk about if we're talking about NFL football, and we are, is the positive tests for COVID from the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans had a defensive coordinator that tested positive last week. And I think it was on Friday. And so he did not make the trip to Minnesota to play. That's Shane Bowen, linebackers coach for the Titans. So he was held back from the trip. After the trip, everyone was tested on Saturday night, and they all tested negative, which means that they were good to go. They were cleared. But on Monday, when they were all tested after the game, after they beat the Vikings 31-30, there were some positive tests. You're talking about 8, 3 players and 5 staff that tested positive. So the Vikings have had to shut down their practice facility. The Titans have had to shut down their practices. So far, the NFL says they want to play on Sunday. They want that game between the Titans and the Steelers to go off on Sunday. If there's any more positive tests, it could delay the thing. This is exactly what happened with Major League Baseball, and it's exactly what I was telling you earlier if you listen to some of our shows. Worried about the fact that if you're traveling from place to place and you don't have a bubble, how do you keep people safe? I don't know how you do it. The baseball couldn't really do it, although they did finish the season and they are in the playoffs. But you know what I said about the Cardinals not playing the same number of games as everyone else? Well, what happens if an NFL team doesn't play one of the 16 games? I don't know what they would do. It will be interesting. If you read the protocols for it reads funny, but there's a flow chart for mitigation and treatment rubric for exposures to COVID-19 positive individuals. And it reads crazy. If they're asymptomatic, if they're symptomatic, if they're blah, 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 if there's close proximity, if there's close contact exposure or lower medium risk exposure. Oh my goodness. Anyway, long story short, it's happening. So we'll see how it affects those two teams, and we'll see how it affects the upcoming games for both those teams. If they've got to postpone anything. And if that starts happening, who knows what will happen to the NFL season. I hope it doesn't, but you just don't know at this point. It will be interesting to see. So that's going to bring us to the second half of the show. Second half of the show is brought to you by Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Go to BossKittyShop.com for your yarns, notions, and Boss Kitty merchandise, or pick up a BossKittyShop.com gift card. Use the code Wear Your Mask at checkout. Receive free U.S. domestic shipping on orders of $50 or more. Tune in to BossKittyLive.com at 6 p.m. every Monday and Wednesday and 11 a.m. every other Sunday for Nerdy Yarn Craft. Games, giveaways, and more. If you haven't tuned in, it's a lot of fun. Watch Simi and you'll learn a little bit. They'll knit a little bit. They'll make a project. They'll be making some sort of awesome thing, and they play games and trivia, and they do all kinds of fun. It is a blast. Anyway, Boss Kitty, Yarn So Boss, you'll knit your pants. I want to talk about NCAA football real quick in the second half of the show. Some big games that happened over the weekend. Some big upsets, more importantly. Let's move to let's move to the scoreboard. Let's go through the scoreboard real quick. The top 25, Alabama all over Missouri, 38-19. It's number 2 Alabama. Number 4 Georgia, 37-10 over Arkansas. Number 5 Florida, 51-35 over Ole Miss. Number 8 Auburn with a 29-13 win over Kentucky. Number 8, we'll hold that one. Number 10 Texas A&M survived Vanderbilt 17-12 in a game that was 7-5 at the half, and I'm going to tell you why it's important in a minute. Number 12 Miami, 52-10 crushed Florida State. Florida State's 0-2 on the year. Number 13 UCF, 51-28 over East Carolina. Number 14 Cincinnati, 24-10 over Army. Number 15 Oklahoma State, 27-13 over West Virginia. Number 16 Tennessee with a 31-27 win over South Carolina at South Carolina. Number 18 BYU with a 48-7 crushing of Troy. Number 19 Louisiana, and you heard me right. Number 19 Louisiana. Not Louisiana State, but Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. They're 3-0 with a 20-18 win over Georgia Southern. I think that says a lot about who's out there playing. The fact that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 haven't played yet. You got a team at number 19 in Louisiana that probably shouldn't be a top 25 team. Number 20 Virginia Tech, 45-24 over NC State. Number 21 Pittsburgh with a 23-20 win over Louisville. The number 7 Notre Dame Fighting Irish had their game postponed with Wake Forest due to COVID. So that's happening in college football as well. But the 3 games I want to talk about, number 3 Oklahoma wound up a loser to Kansas State, 38-35. Big upset in Norman. And this is the second year in a row Kansas State has beat Oklahoma. So I don't think it's a fluke by any stretch of the imagination. It's Skylar Thompson passed for 334 yards. He ran for 3 touchdowns. They rallied. The Wildcats rallied from 21 points down to win 38-35. A 50-yard field goal by Blake Lynch with 4:32 remaining provided the winning margin. It tells you a lot about a team when they get down and they come back to win, especially a team on the road that, this is a national championship caliber team, according to everybody who, we ever heard talk about Oklahoma. Oh, it's Oklahoma. They're 0-1. They played 2 games. They're 1-1 overall, and they may be done in a shortened season. That may be enough. It's hard to say what happens in a shortened, 10-game season, 9-game season, if they can make it back up the chart. It's not impossible, but it's one of those things where, as an upset fan, I'm a big fan of upsets. As a big fan of upsets, this was a good one, and it was fun to watch. Deuce Vaughn, 4 catches, 129 yards for Kansas State. It was impressive. It was impressive to watch the comeback win, and I love watching Oklahoma lose. Just FYI. So you guys can say what you want. I think that it's more fun to watch a team pull off an upset win. It's pretty exciting. The other big upsets on the day: number 6 LSU falls to Mississippi State, 44-34. And this was KJ Costello, the transfer from Stanford, threw for 623 yards, an SEC record 623 yards, and 5 touchdowns in the win. He was 36 of 60. That air raid offense that Mike Leach brought to Mississippi State, it's 1-0 in the SEC. Oh, that can't work. That they just trick plays, blah, 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 blah. No, they just crushed number 6 LSU, 44-34. Maybe not crushed, but in terms of an upset victory on the road, that's a big one in Baton Rouge. Texas pulled off a squeaker, 63-56 in overtime. They beat Texas Tech. Sam Ellinger was good. I mean, good enough to win. 262 yards, 5 touchdowns, and interception. Um, if Alan Bowman, the Texas Tech quarterback, hadn't thrown 3 interceptions, I think we're talking about a different football game here. But it was a high scoring affair and, fun to watch. Maybe the best, I don't know, might have been the best college football game. It's hard to say. But Texas, still in the hunt for national championship. They're 2-0. Texas Tech is 1-1. So that was pretty much your college football games, and it was a wild weekend. Upsets galore. There was a lot of big plays. It was a lot of fun to watch. If you watch Texas and Texas Tech, if you watch LSU and Mississippi State. But now comes the interesting part of the college football, and we're not sure what's going to happen. So the NCAA rankings come out and they now include the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. And it will be interesting to see what happens because you've thrown Ohio State in. Ohio State immediately hasn't played a game. They got 4 first place votes, but they're number 6 in the poll. Penn State at 10, Oregon at 14, Wisconsin at 19, and Michigan at 23. Oregon's the only team from the Pac-12 on this chart, and Oregon has fallen from where they were originally projected, which was 9th or 8th, because of some, Penei Sewell opted out. There's some other players, Javon Holland, more recently opted out. It's going to be interesting to see, but they're still the favorites to win the Pac-12. The Pac-12 coming back will be interesting to see what happens. It will be 7-game schedule. I'm not sure how they're going to pull that off exactly. You can't have anything go wrong the way they're doing because they're not going to start playing until November. November 6th would be the beginning of Pac-12 play, and they're going to play 7 games. And if I'm not mistaken, so you play November, that weekend of the 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th. There's 4 games. The 5th, the 12th of December, and then I think they wrap it up on Friday the 18th because I think on the 19th or the 20th they're going to announce the college football playoff. So they're trying to get it all done before the playoff selects their teams. They're going to try and get a 7-game season in. I don't know. It doesn't feel right. It feels like, why all of a sudden did you decide? I mean, it's got to be money related. It's got to be one of those things where, there were health concerns. They said they weren't going to do it. Now all of a sudden we're not concerned about health. I don't know. It will be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to guarantee you it's loss of revenue that's driving this. From the Big 12 and the Pac-10 not getting out there and playing, because who does not want to see Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon State, those games, those rivalry games, those big games that you want to see. And what we're missing out on is Oregon, Ohio State. That was going to play this year, and I am really, really, really disappointed in that. I was headed to that game. I had tickets to that game. Don't get to see it, and now may not get fans at all in any of those Pac-12 games, or the Big Ten games for that matter. So, not real thrilled with the Big Ten and Pac-12 reversing their decision, and then trying to hurry a season in so they can get in ahead of the college football playoff. Because let's be honest, there shouldn't have been a college football playoff. You only had 3 Power 5 conferences. I don't think that's a thing, but they did it. They're trying to rush it in. So anyway, remains to be seen. We'll see how Oregon does. We'll see how the Big Ten does. We'll see what happens. Trivia. Question answer. You guys ready? Does anybody remember the trivia question? Of course not. Why? Because that was a long time ago. It's 40 minutes ago. Trivia question answer. Our trivia question was, there are 6 current NBA franchises that have never been in the NBA Finals. Can you name them? So I'm going to tell you right now, they are the Charlotte Hornets, the Denver Nuggets, the LA Clippers, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the New Orleans Pelicans. Those are your 6 teams. And so here's a little bonus question, just because I've got a little bit of time, and I'm going to throw out a bonus question at you. So there are 3 current franchises in the NBA that are undefeated in NBA Finals. They've been to the NBA Finals, and they've won every time they've been there. 3 of them. Can anybody name all 3? I'm going to give you the answer here in just a minute. We want to thank our sponsors, The Range in Yakima, Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns, and Stave & Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. So go see them at the range. Take a shooting lesson. Buy a gun. Have your gun serviced. Go see them at Stave & Stone. Have a glass of wine. Get a bottle. Buy some bottles. Have them. Order some bottles online and go pick them up. I promise you won't regret it. And then Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Make sure that you order something for the knitter, the crafter in your family. Go check it out. BossKittyShop.com. Promise you won't be disappointed. 3 current franchises undefeated in the NBA Finals. They are the Chicago Bulls, the Sacramento Kings, and the Toronto Raptors. So, just for the transparency's sake, the Kings and the Raptors are both 1-0. They've only been to 1 Finals and they won it. The Bulls have been to 6. They're 6-0. So that's your trivia answer. If you knew it, more power to you. If you didn't, we'll have another trivia question. So, just to remind everyone, we stream live on YouTube. We're going to do it again on Saturday, YouTube Live. You can email us, lambsports@gmail.com. You can go on Facebook. Just punch in the Best Lamb Sports Show. You'll find our page. You can tweet us at Lamb Sports. And check out our website, lambsports.com, www.lambsports.com. Parker said I don't have to say www anymore, but I think it's just fun and tongue twister to say. www.lambsports.com. Check it out. There'll be a link to the trivia question, past shows. You can listen to old shows on there. You can also do it on YouTube. There's a page for us there under the Best Lamb Sports Show. You can catch any of the old episodes if you haven't seen any. This is episode 23, by the way. And this weekend on Saturday will be episode 24. I hope that we'll see you all back here for episode 24 with me and Parker. So that'll do it from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Yakima, Washington. Join us on Saturday. Time yet to be determined. It's probably going to be an afternoon show. I'm guessing 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. And Parker's going to be here joining me live in studio. So we'll have a fantastic show for you. We'll talk about the current college football games that are going on. We'll preview Sunday's NFL matchups, and we'll cover the Thursday night NFL game. We'll get into some debates about should they or should they not be playing football, and we'll give you an update in terms of the COVID situation with the Titans and the Vikings. That's all for now. We'll see you next week.